Oh, there we are. Hey, how's it going, everyone? It's Friday. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the Pacific Coast. I'm Kip Davis. I'm a biblical scholar and a specialist in early Judaism and the Dead Sea Scrolls. And I'm joined by my fabulous co-host, Vishanti.
What's up?
Hey, how you doing?
Pizza.
Pizza.
Lots and lots of pizza.
So Vish has this off the charts metabolism, which means that she must never stop eating. So she out of the goodness of her heart, and because she believes in the work, takes like a 2.5 to 3 hour break on Fridays. Just to do the show. And even that doesn't always quite get through it. Because it's a thing. It's a real thing.
I mean, I'm literally eating a pizza right now, and I was like, yeah, I'll probably be hungry by the end of the stream.
Yeah. So I also ate before the stream, and then right when I'm finished, I am jumping into, and I'm redirecting everybody to Dapper Dinosaur's other channel, Top Hats Off, for Star Trek Endurance Season 2, Episode 6, I believe, which is where I will be from like 5 o'clock until who the hell knows. So I probably won't get a chance to eat for like another 4.5 or 5 hours. Probably 5 hours. 6, maybe 6.
Oh, Vish just got the munchies in live. I mean, that has happened before, but this time it's just my metabolism is really high. So.
And you get a strong appreciation for this when you actually spend time with Vish in real life, because it's literally every 2 hours,
4 hours.
I gotta get something. I gotta stop and eat something.
It's more like 4.
But yeah, okay. That's I probably am exaggerating. And it's true. Triceratops. Food is your friend. I love food.
Almost Susan says, I live in SoCal, so every time I hear P52, I think P22, the mountain lion. R.I.P. Legendary P22. So LA, for being a very large city, is consistently interacting with the wildlife here, because I mean it's a coastal basin. There's mountains everywhere, and you'll see coyotes, you'll see all sorts of other things, and then mountain lions are very common. And there's a few famous ones because they're tagged and tracked so that you can monitor their health and their behavioral patterns and all these other things. And P22 was a very famous mountain lion here locally, and then I think 2 to 3 something like that years ago, it unfortunately was hit by a vehicle, and despite being in pretty good health and of a decent age, they just didn't recover very well, and they ended up passing, and like the whole city was upset over this mountain lion.
Very sad.
Yeah, because it's legendary. And they sell little stuffed animal P22s at some of the local museums here, and it goes towards wildlife preservation. So yeah, R.I.P. to a legend. P22.
Very nice. Well, we are, and so it's we're doing this, and it's not the whole thing, but I am definitely taking the opportunity on the basis of this video that we're going to look at with the insufferable Muppet. I'm taking the opportunity to talk today about P52. I mention P52 quite a lot. I feel like in my streams and my work for a couple of really good reasons. Number one, it's a manuscript. I like manuscripts. Number two, it's the oldest still New Testament manuscript, which I think is interesting. And it's become an apologetic trope because of that. And number three, it is the John Rylands papyrus permanently housed at the University of Manchester, which is my alma mater. So I used to get to go see it on a regular basis, which was very cool. It is on public display. If you ever get to Manchester, make sure you go to the Deansgate Library downtown and go look at P52. There's some other really good stuff there at Deansgate, and also at the Natural History Museum, which is on the central campus. There's a phenomenal natural history museum that has lots of mummies. They've got about 20 or 30 um, sarcophagi from Egypt that are from, I think, like the 4th century BC to the 1st century CE. It's pretty cool. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff there too. So, Manchester, guys, it's a great place to visit. And if you're there, catch the theater scene is excellent in Manchester. So go to the theater if you can. All right. So we're here, and we are going to talk about P52 today. Oh, by the way, I didn't even show you this, Vish, but I added a new toy finally.
Word for word.
Word for word.
Word for word.
Wow.
Good.
It's good. It's good. I have an extended version as well.
So when you say the book of Isaiah is intact, how similar is it to the book of Isaiah that's in the Bible?
So that one is fascinating. So this isn't true for all of the Dead Sea Scrolls, but when we discovered the Great Isaiah Scroll, previous to that, the earliest copy of Isaiah that we had was in the Masoretic text, which is in the Middle Ages.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it was literally 1,000 years. We literally pushed back our understanding of Isaiah 1,000 years. And the thing that really shocked scholars, like I said, this isn't true for all of the Dead Sea Scrolls, but one of the things that shocked them about Isaiah was that it was word for word identical to the Masoretic text.
Word for word.
Word for word.
Wow.
Word for word.
Word for word. Wow.
Word for word.
Word for word.
Word for word.
Wow.
It's good. So I like it. All right. Oh, I turned this upside down. Okay. So, do you guys remember Dinx? Dinx, the apologetic puppet. So
Oh, that's the name of it.
we-
Okay.
you thought I was making
Never
a bad
learned the
joke.
puppet's name.
You were like,
I was like, oh, okay.
the puppet has a name. By the way, just a reminder to everyone, if you are either watching this on landscape or in a vertical format on your phone, if you are unhappy with the orientation of your view, there is a link in the description for you to change to the other one. But I fiddled around with it today some, and I think I've got this sorted out in a way that's going to make everyone pretty happy about how the video appears. So yeah, we did we covered a video from this insufferable piece of cloth just before Christmas with our friend Paula Gia. Hey, and look who showed up.
We got a super chat from
this
Dave
guy.
for 5 beaver
Dave!
bucks.
Thanks,
Here they
Dave.
made a documentary about them starring Val Kilmer and Morgan Freeman.
Really?
I don't know
Wow.
if that's
Is
referring
he
to
talking about
cougars?
P52 or cougars? So, let us know, Dave. Oh, look, Chrissy's here.
Hey!
I have stuff for you, Chrissy. I will make sure to send it. But and by stuff I don't mean actual stuff. I mean, digital stuff. So
That's still stuff.
but it's still stuff. That's true. So I will I'll make sure to send it after the stream or after the next stream. So yes, I also like stuff. So I thought you'd be happy about that. So Lawrence is here as well, showing that I guess Lawrence is a Chrissy mythicist, which is interesting.
Oh.
Lawrence, by the way, is enrolled in my Hebrew class that starts on Tuesday. There are still
Just to heckle you,
slots
right?
open. Just to heckle. That's it. But you know what's fun when you're the teacher? At least when you're in my position as the teacher, is you don't have to put up with so much of the heckling as maybe you do in other
Chrissy says, Chrissy mythicism,
Chrissy
Chrisithism,
mysticism.
Chrisithism.
Chrisithism. So yeah. But yeah. What was I saying? I was saying stuff, I'm pretty sure. Yes. we covered this insufferable apologetics puppet with Paulogia, Dave's friend. So I noticed this video this week, and he said a bunch of stupid things that we can talk about, but predominantly I want to take this as an opportunity to talk some about P52 before we start. Everybody has seen, right, my P52 puzzle from the Manchester Library. It's one of my favorites. All right, cool. So I am controlling the video today, which means that this could go one way or another. Can everybody hear it okay?
Nope.
Let me know. No sound?
Cannot hear it.
Really? We did this. We tested
Yeah.
this. Why doesn't it work? What
I
did
know.
I do? Oh, you know what?
I
I know what
don't
I did.
know.
Let me it's probably because I have to do this every time. That's it.
Ah,
So, right. So let's go here. Let's select that and share. All right. Don't show this tip again. Okay.
I don't know.
Back
You
it
might
up.
hear.
Okay. Let me know if you can hear.
I was just talking to one of my followers about this. We were
Can you
talking
hear
about
it?
how the Bible is missing books.
Yeah.
Oh, look, it's the woman who blocked me because she didn't like my arguments. And before any of you say anything, yeah.
I bet that's exactly why she blocked him. That's what
Arguments.
arguments, yes. This is usually how
Yeah.
this goes. So
Also, Mern is saying, just let me do it. Well, we could have done that, but it's because the aspect ratio, this was filmed vertically. If I screen share it, not on TikTok or wherever this was posted, it's gonna
be this
only
big.
take up a fraction of the screen. So
we're not
he decided that his tablet was better suited to this format. So
you agreed though.
Mhm.
So yes. But yeah, so it's not like I'm under any delusion that I'm actually good at this. Okay, that's not what this is. This is just the this is about pragmatism. So
a princess censored dinosaur Mishkin for 25 Polish, whatever the denomination is. Merry Christmas.
excellent. That's awesome.
And Lawrence says it's giving Darth Dawkins. Yeah, it is. Asshole thinks other people don't like him because he's actually too good. Sure.
Right? That's it.
Whatever
That's
you
it.
say, kiddo.
So and guys, I titled this video, I hope you can see that. I titled it because this is what I do is I usually I cut my own copy and I use that so I don't have to deal with ads, and and it's easier with copyright stuff too, right? But I titled this "Puppets Are Dumb. Stop listening to them. Puppets are entertaining. But they're dumb. They're just dumb." Okay? So
Puppets aren't alive, Kip.
exactly. It's true. So can you? Does that mean I'm just gonna press play?
I do block people too, but not because they disagree with me, but because they generally are causing problems in my comment section. If you're respectful, you're welcome to disagree in the comment section all you like. But let's see what she.
It's a good message, and we do have some chat rules, that are, what are they? You be nice to each other. No proselytizing. That's a big one. Is that the two the
no,
two main
you
rules? Fish?
added one, but I think it's a good one. Is be
Did
excellent
I?
to each other.
The be nice one.
No proselytizing. The other one that's originally there is no. How did I phrase it? Let me just grab the banner.
You've
Not...
got a banner. Yeah, there we go.
No trolling and no esoteric quackery. No. And the reason that's there is like, look, we're here to learn about critical scholarship and history. If you want to like drop acid or do mushrooms and go off on a mystic tangent, go for it. This is just not the place.
There's streams for that, right? Yeah. This is not one of them.
No.
John Gooderham.
This is not a theology channel.
Yes. John Gooderham says, I learned Bible history from Dinx the Puppet. Said no one ever. We hope. Really? We do hope.
Has to say.
How at some point a bunch of men got together and decided that these books didn't belong in the Bible, that they didn't fit the narrative they were trying to push or the story they were trying to tell.
Oh, so the argument that's been debunked several times and that you don't ever bother bringing your receipts for? Sure. Yeah, I've heard that one many times, but it's not.
I mean, look, I can give him half credit for this.
Yes, we can.
Half credit, not full credit.
Half credit. No.
Because there's this idea in the public, I guess, consciousness that the Council of Nicaea got together and they all conspired together and twirled their mustaches and decided what the narrative of the canon would be, and if it didn't fit, they would toss it out. Like, that's not what happened. That's not how canon was decided, and that's certainly not what the Council of Nicaea was convened for. So,
exactly right. And I suspect too, you know, in the spirit of charity here, that this is probably the narrative that she's running with. I don't know. I didn't see the original video that he's responding to. More like the council of see ya.
See ya.
So it but it's just, it's a fair point though. One that I'd like to make is that in a much less direct way, the canons are crafted narratives. They are curated collections of literature, with the impetus behind them, you know, based on specific points of doctrine that the compilers were efforting to forward. So, like, she's not all wrong either, right? She's just maybe mostly wrong.
I would say she's got the right spirit, but it's not coming out in a way that's historically like accurate.
Yeah.
Dave says, I left for 10 minutes and there's puppets looking right into my soul and I'm freaking the F out. What is happening? Brixie says, sir, puppet. The canon was not picked by conspiracy, but it also wasn't picked by women. I mean, not directly, but the way that they thought of canon is these are the texts that are the most widely circulated and the ones that are being most widely read in various communities across this region. That's something that's more organic. It's not top down. It's very frequently crowdsourced, I think is a decent-ish way to describe it.
Yeah.
So
helps to explain why there's
sorry, so she could just be referring to the idea that canonicity is downstream of orthodoxy. Yeah,
yes.
I mean, they're related for sure,
be.
but I would say if you want to use a modern term, it's crowdsourced. And then whoever the clergy leadership was at the time was like, yeah, I mean, these are the ones that are being read the most often by the most people, so these are probably the ones that are the best candidates for us to put the stamp on.
Yes. probably. By the way, Maya points out that she had to memorize the Nicene Creed if she wanted out of the 7th grade. Wow. Wonder if she can still recite it. I'm pressing play now.
True. She always refers to the Council of Nicaea, which we actually have the records of what they talked about, which had nothing to do with establishing the canon of the Bible. It was pretty well set. And while there were varying canons, most of them were almost completely identical. There was only a handful of books that were in question, none of which...
Revelation.
You know which one
it should have stayed in question.
It should have.
Just saying.
In this question of canon, though, something that is often missed by people like Dinx. I suspect Dinx is probably an adherent to the Protestant 66 book canon, which was not a canon at the time when these decisions were being made. Funny that that was a very late attempt at piecing together a collection.
Will Clark says, "The Apocalypse of John." A lot of letters and stuff. Doesn't the Peshitta exclude Revelation?
I don't think so. I have to...
Peshitta's in Aramaic, isn't it?
Syriac.
Syriac. Thank you.
I don't think I have my copy anymore, but no, that I don't.
Yeah, I'm with Eric Mickelson on this one as well. The Book of Revelation was certainly a choice. Yeah, of all the choices of history, that sure is one of them. I think it shouldn't have been included. It's caused a lot of harm to a lot of people, and continues to do so.
Oh no, this is a lectionary. So yeah, I don't have. I believe my copy of the Peshitta is still in Norway with half of my books that are still in Norway. But I know it's frustrating. So, but I would have to double check that. I'm fairly sure it's in there. I'm gonna press play again.
Looks off as hearsay, when in actuality the entire Bible is hearsay.
Hearsay? Are you trying to say the word heresy? Because those are two different words. Books are hearsay.
No.
That would be an eyewitness account, and we acknowledge that the Gospels are eyewitness accounts.
And no point was anything.
Is that what we acknowledge? That
we do not actually.
We do not.
And she didn't mean heresy. She meant hearsay.
She sure didn't mean heresy. I don't know how he arrived at that conclusion. That seemed kind of dumb to me. Because,
yeah, I would. How would the Psalms or Proverbs be hearsay? That's a ridiculous assertion to make. But
true. His
response is also pretty ludicrous because the Gospels aren't eyewitness accounts. Literally, none of the people that were alleged to be the authors were eyewitnesses.
And I suspect
this stuff.
And she's probably she's probably doing shorthand. Or she's probably, she's probably making this argument on the basis of the ways in which Christian apologists like to present the Gospels. So it's or even things like the Torah, which I suppose in certain theological models you could suggest are regarded as eyewitness accounts, when they totally are not.
Yeah.
Written at the time it was happening.
And what's your evidence for that?
Yeah, also...
The problem is that we can...
Katie Lewis, Luke says that Luke is not an eyewitness account. That is true. Right there in the opening, it says, hey, this is some stuff I heard. Writing it down for y'all.
Yes.
Like, come on.
Yes.
Also, the ones that are allegedly by apostles for whom they're named, they're all written in like the third person. They're not written from the I saw this, I saw that, he said this to me. It's all third person. So like, what are you talking about? Eyewitnesses. It's ridiculous.
So even to extend this, right, to I mean, I guess, yeah, you've got in terms of actual firsthand literature that you have within not just the New Testament, but within the entire Bible, there's not a lot, right? Even when it comes to things like you've got the letters of Paul, the authentic letters of Paul that we usually distinguish from the pseudonymous letters of Paul, which are firsthand. You've got Hebrew prophets, which are firsthand, but even there, places like it varies.
Lord Isaiah has entered the chat.
Yeah, even First Isaiah, right?
Yeah.
We tend to think of First Isaiah as the prophecies of Isaiah ben Amoz, who lived in the 8th century BCE, and a lot of scholars will talk about this block of material as if it's properly part of Isaiah's output, his actual prophecies, his sayings. But how much of it, we're not even sure. Like, it is striking when you read, I make this point a fair bit when talking about Isaiah. In 2nd Isaiah and 3rd Isaiah, Isaiah's never mentioned. Like, the name just never appears, right? Because these weren't written by him. Nothing is actually presented as a prophecy of Isaiah. But even in 1st Isaiah, Isaiah is mentioned. Oracles are attributed to Isaiah a total of 6 times in the entire body of 1st Isaiah. So, right? There's better, like, I think like a big book like Jeremiah, there's a lot more firsthand material there. Some of the minor prophets, Ezekiel, I think, is much more clearly firsthand. So it kind of varies, right? But there's just a ton of it. There's just a ton of literature.
There's another thing.
That is not.
I'm having to laugh. Apparently, 2 Timothy, you have Paul saying, hey, take these 2 people with you. Like, Luke's with me. Take Mark, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
The fact that they're collaborating with Paul does not make them eyewitnesses to Jesus's life. Please recall that Paul never met Jesus while he was alive. Not once. He saw him in a vision, which, friends, that's not eyewitness testimony to anything other than the fact that, hey, I saw a vision one time. So
yeah,
he's name dropping people that are later alleged to have written the Gospels, but you can't get information from Paul, who literally never met Jesus. So I don't know what you're doing there, but
feels
GG.
a little. Also, I mean, now, mentioning that that Paul makes mention that the pseudonymous. This is the pseudonymous Paul in 2nd Timothy. So this is probably written in the 2nd century. Yeah, it's not even Paul.
God.
And the fact that he's going, Mark and Luke, is it a coincidence that that these texts were later identified as gospels attached to these figures' names, right?
Hang on. I'm
saying.
Sorry. I know I said this wasn't a theology channel, and it's still not, but Jesus and the Holy Spirit was with Paul many times. Hey, listen, I could say that I saw a vision and that a spirit told me all sorts of events that I wasn't there to witness. So that doesn't mean anything. And the fact that, like, the grammar and the language of these other epistles that were definitely not written by Paul, someone who was not really impersonating him that great. So what are you talking about? This makes no sense. These are certainly words in an order. Believe everything except what we have. What are you talking about? Anyway, so one thing that we kind of need to reaffirm for people is when you're reading the Gospels, there are entire chunks of the text that were lifted almost word for
verbatim.
Verbatim.
Where is it?
Do the thing.
Word for word. Word for word. Word for word. Word for word.
Wow.
word for word from Mark. If you are writing a first-hand account of things that you witnessed, you don't need to copy other people's work.
Nope.
If you're there, it doesn't need to be copied, and it's not going to sound word for word the same as other people's account.
But look,
Like-
Mark did such a good job, Vish, that Matthew just decided to he didn't need to.
Yeah, his is
add
good
any
enough. It's fine.
flourish. It's good enough. Never mind the fact that he also felt the compunction to change enormous quantities
Paul
of
didn't
the
write
text
all
as
the
well.
letters that are attributed to Paul. This is literally first year scholarship stuff. This is not a secret.
Yeah, it
this is
is.
first year 100 level college stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
It is baffling that this is apparently the first time you're hearing this, which is strange, but hey, if you
Weird.
stick
I
around
feel
on the
like
channel long
Freak's
enough,
been
you
on my
might
channel
actually
before.
absorb some of this, and you can claim a spirit told me this information. What are historians supposed to do with that? Nothing.
Nope. But I'm pressing play.
Can actually conclude a lot of these things is true. We can historically prove a lot of the things that are written in these books, whether by chain of authorship, because the early church fathers who were directly under the disciples confirm the writers, like Polycarp, or archaeological finds that support exactly what was written in those books.
Exactly.
Really?
What was written in those books.
Really? How does archaeology verify that a resurrection happened, that someone came back from the dead?
Or that somebody fed 5,000 people with a couple of loaves and fishes, or cast a herd of swine off a cliff into the sea, or healed blind people and
the most
lame
you're ever gonna find is, hey, look, this place they mentioned is actually a place.
It's here. It's a place. There it is.
Oh, hey, look, Pontius Pilate was a real guy. Yep, sure
There you
was.
go.
So was Herod. Does that mean that they did all the things that the text says? No, that's not what that means. Again, I know this is kind of a played out example, but just because you find evidence that New York City is actually a real city doesn't mean that Spider-Man comics are actually real life. It doesn't make Peter Parker.
Doesn't, or Escape from New York. Doesn't mean that that's real either.
Escape from New York.
Right?
Great movie.
So
Snake Plissken's real, and he's the Messiah.
Yes.
Oh man.
Just once, I'd like you to bring some receipts.
These are stories that were passed down by mouth for decades, if not centuries, before they were actually written down.
Probably
not
probably not centuries.
Not centuries.
When we're talking about the New
Decades,
Testament.
Yeah.
And then even, I don't know, it's hard to when you get into this into the relationship between orality and writing, scribalism. This gets very, very tricky to track then. But it's certainly, like, there's no question at all that these were, like, let's just talk about the Gospels, because I think that's where this guy's setting most of his focus. I think this is where she's setting most of her focus too. There's no question, even amongst the most, maybe not the most, but even amongst the very, very conservative scholars of the New Testament, that all of these started as stories that people told each other, that even if they thought they were true, or even if they were let's say based in things that actually happened, there's still stories that were told before they were ever written down. And things happen. Somebody's asking about my audio here, by the way.
It sounds fine to me.
But yeah, let us know if things sound okay to you guys
also,
in the chat.
Princess Censor Dinosaur Michigan for 50
the
Polish currencies. We had to memorize the Nicene Creed for a grade in religion lessons in my very regular secular school in Poland. I think I could still write it along with some standard prayers in the Paternoster in Latin.
Brilliant. Very nice. You win the internet today.
Yeah. Katie Lewis says, Vish, this isn't even religion 101. This is what elementary school kids learn in theology class in a lot of churches. Yeah, I would say
that's probably true, right?
If you went to religious school as a kid, let us know if this is something they taught you. Better Than Ember says, doesn't archaeology not show us the many empty tombs of the saints who rose with Jesus? Surely those for sure exist.
I mean, one of the things archaeology does show us is a lot of tombs, and some of them are empty.
Some of them.
But some of them are, yeah. So
also, you can't exactly prove, quote unquote, in the colloquial sense, that Jesus rose from the dead, because if you find his body, then, well, you just kind of like undid your whole point. So at the end of the day, it quite literally comes down to trust me, bro.
It does.
So not the best thing to build an entire like theological structure on, but hey, I'm whatever. Tatter's Mad for 5 says, as someone who grew up in New York City in the 80s, I can assure you that Escape from New York is very real. That was the Warriors. Good.
My bad. Wow.
Good. Classics.
Oh, shit. Sorry. Okay. Pressing play.
A good argument for you. We actually have a fragment of this gospel. So tell me again how they waited centuries before writing it.
Serafina, what about the...
I feel like I need to back this up, because that's all. Is that really all he showed here? Okay.
Polycarp, or archaeological finds that support exactly what was written in
Notice
those
he's not listing them.
Just once, I'd like her to bring some receipts.
These are stories that were passed down by mouth for decades, if not centuries, before they were actually written down.
Oh, that's not a good argument for you. We actually have a fragment.
How does that disprove that these were transmitted orally?
Wow. I mean, it certainly doesn't. But I want you to pay attention to what's on the screen here. P52. John 18, 31 to 33 and 37 to 38. It's written on the verso and the recto and the verso. So both sides. It's like probably a leaf from a codex. Dated to the late 1st century. Same century as Jesus. That's a whole bunch of bullshit. Did this puppet say that the 2nd century CE is the same century as Jesus? No, he did not. He is labeled and dated P52 as late 1st century. Did you ever hear the story of 1st century Mark?
A lovely lady.
Fish? Oh, not that one.
Sorry.
That's a good story too. Did you ever hear the story of 1st century Mark?
At some point probably, but
just very
out of my brain
briefly.
For other information.
This was in 2012. New Testament scholar Bart Ehrman had a debate with New Testament textual critic Daniel Wallace about the reliability of the New Testament, and Daniel Wallace presented in this debate, announced to the public that the Museum of the Bible had purchased a copy, a fragment from a manuscript that dates to the 1st century and contains the text of Mark. And this set off a sensation. It turns out that they didn't, and that's a long, very interesting, complicated story. It's got crime in it, which is fun, and fraud, and castles in Texas. Yes.
One moment. Hi, you're gonna get banned. We don't do that here.
No,
so you know.
We don't. So
my text says that the Jews took bribes and spread rumors about him, so that definitely happened. Get fucked. Apologies, Professor. Please resume.
Get fucked all the way. and
Yeah.
castles. So it's a great story. But the point is, the reason this triggered such a sensation is because there are no first century manuscripts of a scrap of the New Testament. There are none. P52 is the oldest New Testament manuscript that we have. And I'm gonna take this down for a minute because this is part of what I really wanted to get into today. This is not the first time. I guarantee that you guys who are watching me, a bunch of you have heard this stuff before. You have heard from Christian apologists, not somebody so stupid as the puppet here to suggest that P52 belongs to the first century, because it sure as fuck does not. But you've heard Christian apologists talk about this fabled manuscript as if it's an early 2nd century manuscript. I've seen lots of apologists suggest that P52 belongs to about 125 CE. The statement is often made that it was copied within a generation of the lives of the last of the last living apostles. If it's true that John lived into the 90s, then yeah. This is all very problematic, and it gives me the opportunity to share with you something else. There is an excellent New Testament scholar. Not really so much a New Testament scholar. There's an excellent papyrologist at MF Norwegian School of Theology. This is the same school where my good friend, and I'm just showing you. He has Brent Nongbury has an excellent blog that he still keeps up with on occasion called Variant Readings. This is a post from the summer where he talks about new images of this very manuscript of P52. So but it's an excellent blog. I encourage everybody to go follow Brent Nongbury's blog. He's written a book about the earliest Christian manuscripts called God's Library, which is phenomenal. I highly recommend it. I still have intentions, and I think this year. This is one of the things that I'd really like to do this year, is to have Brent on the channel to talk about some of this stuff.
Please.
So
that would be amazing.
And Brent has told me he wasn't at SBL this last year. There was a lot of people from Norway who didn't come, just Matt, nobody else. But Brent at SBL in San Diego, while he does not like doing interviews and he doesn't like doing media, he'll come here and he'll talk to me. So
nice.
We're gonna get him on here hopefully this year. He lives in Norway, so we might have to do an earlier show. We'll have to sort this out, but it would be fantastic, I think, to get him on to talk about this kind of stuff, to talk about New Testament manuscripts. The reason I bring this up, though, so that's the blog. Y'all should go follow the blog. But 15 years ago or so, maybe 20 years.
I'll put it in the chat.
Yes, let's do that now.
While you do that,
just go to, yes.
Will Clark says, I realize Vishanti is sitting in the Sanctum Sanctorum based. Yes, indeed. Tad is mad for 2.
Just realized that. Wow, that's cool.
Really, this has literally been my background the whole time.
for ages, right?
Yeah.
It's in the Discord.
First century source. I made it up. Yeah, Chrissy says Dan Wallace should have lost his career for first century Mark, and so should have Craig Evans and others involved.
Yeah, but Dan Wallace works at Dallas Theological Seminary.
Oh yeah, he ain't going anywhere.
Craig Evans is at formerly Houston Baptist university. I don't know what that. I can't remember what
If
they
they're
call it
going
now.
back to school, they're not going anywhere.
Nope.
What follows that up for 5 with that Wallace still has a career after that is a blight on humanity. Same for Evans and the rest of their ilk. Yeah.
Agreed.
Frustrating.
So
Lewis writes, quoting Augustine, "I would not believe the gospel if I didn't accept the authority of the church," and that is that's it. That's most people that are into these kinds of things. It's like, well, they said it's true, so I believe it. Like, bruh.
Oh, sorry. Whoops. No,
That's okay.
you.
These are all kind
pull
of in
that
the same vein.
Okay.
I think you just talked about this.
Oh, we're gonna talk about
could be
this.
as late as the 3rd century. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about this.
And
so
I think a good prompt is, even if it was from the 1st century, what would a scrap
what
that
would it
small prove?
Right? Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, no. All it
It would prove that
proves
stories
is
were in
that
circulation and being written down earlier.
that's it.
Doesn't mean they happened.
That's it, right? It's dubious stuff. I did want to point, but yes, Katie, absolutely. We will, and maybe we'll talk about first century Mark with some details sometime. You could probably get someone on to talk about that who knows the story pretty intimately. I just have to think of who, but that's it's pretty wild. If you're interested, I do actually have a video on my channel called Josh McDowell myth making, manuscript hunting and myth making for Jesus. It's one of the very early videos that I made. I talk a fair bit about first century Mark in that video. But I also wanted I think I'm okay doing this. Katie I think you've started, haven't you, Katie? She's starting or she has started or is starting a show on YouTube on Sunday afternoons. If you can just put the information in the chat, we'll make sure Vish highlights that. But I've been invited to come on and hang out with her on her Sunday afternoon shows, and I'm definitely going to be doing that. Maybe I'll do that this weekend, in fact. So yes, she has a channel. So please put the information in the chat. So about 15 or 20 years ago, Brent wrote a really, really good article. Still holds up today, called let me just pull it up here. It's this one. The use and abuse of P52, papyrological pitfalls in the dating of the fourth gospel. And I just want to go over a couple of things in this excellent article that Brent wrote, and talk about what we're doing with P52. Is it big enough, or should I embiggen it?
It looks fine to me. I don't know about the chat.
I'm thinking here too about the I think it looks good on the phone view too. So I think I'm just gonna leave it. And I'm just gonna read some of this stuff and talk through some of this right in the introduction here. The thesis of this paper is simple. We, as critical readers of the New Testament, often use John Ryland's Greek papyrus 3.457, also known as P52, in inappropriate ways, and we should stop doing so. A recent example will illustrate the problem in what is, on the whole, a superb commentary on John's Gospel. 25% bigger, please. Okay. The ironic thing is, if I make it bigger, it might shrink it on the... Is it getting bigger?
Yeah, that looks good.
Okay, that's good. Do you think that's... I didn't check to see if it was
there
exactly
you go.
25%.
Nice. There we go.
How's that? That's good? Everyone happy with
Beautimus.
that? All right, beautimus. So D. Moody Smith writes the following about the date of John. For a time, particularly in the early part of the 20th century, the possibility that John was not written, or at least not published, until the mid-2nd century was a viable one. At that time, Justin Martyr espoused a Logos Christology without citing the fourth gospel explicitly. Such an omission by Justin would seem strange if the Gospel of John had already been written and was in circulation. Then, the discovery and publication in the 1930s of 2 papyrus fragments made such a late dating difficult, if not impossible, to sustain. The first and most important is the fragment of John, chapter 18, P52, dated by paleographers to the 2nd quarter of the 2nd century, 125 to 150. The other fragment of a hitherto unknown gospel called the Edgerton Papyrus II from the same period, which obviously reflects knowledge of the Gospel of John. For the Gospel of John to have been written and circulated in Egypt, where these fragments were found, a date no later than the first decade of the 2nd century must be presumed. Moody Smith is not alone in his assessment of the situation. In the introduction to his influential commentary on the fourth gospel, Raymond Brown concludes the section on the latest plausible date of John with the following. The most conclusive argument against the late dating of John has been the discovery of several 2nd century papyri texts of John. In 1935, C.H. Roberts published Ryland's Papyrus 457, P52. The dating of this papyrus to 135 to 150 has been widely accepted. And the latest attempt to date New Testament papyri by Kurt Olland, assigns to P52 a date at the beginning of the 2nd century. For Brown, this papyrological evidence is enough to mark 100 CE as the latest possible date for the composition of John. While both authors mention other papyri paleographically dated to the 2nd century, they both view P52 as the main evidence for an early dating of John. Many scholars have followed this judgment. I'm not going to read the whole article, I promise, but the introduction is really good. This assessment is not, however, without problems. First, speaking here as a paleographer, myself speaking here as a paleographer, can attest to this. Paleographic dating of papyri is never a simple matter. And because of the constant accumulation of new evidence, the dating of manuscripts, even more so than other aspects of our discipline, is an ongoing process. Second, as Smith's observations suggest, in early Christian writings, there are few early quotations of and allusions to John. And even those few are highly questionable. Scholars were debating the nature of these alleged references to John in early Christian authors until the publication of P52 in 1935, when such debates, so scholars thought, had now become moot. This state of affairs calls for 2 responses. First, as George Strecker noted almost 15 years ago, there is an urgent need for a new analysis of P52 that would objectively set out the pros and cons of a possible dating. Second, but outside the purview of this study, we should reopen some of the debates of the early 20th century that tapered off with the publication of P52, namely debates about the presence or absence of references to John in the writings of early Christian authors, both Orthodox and non-Orthodox. With regard to the first point, I think I'll skip this part a little bit here and move on. So actually, yeah, I'll just read this last sentence here. I hope that by bringing together the images of the manuscripts cited in previous treatments of P52, as well as some of my own comparanda, I can highlight the uncertainty involved in paleographic dating and encourage caution when using P52 to assess the date and thus the social setting of the fourth gospel. So, Nongbi, you hear what he's saying here, though, right? And you see what's happened in the years after the discovery of this phenomenal little manuscript fragment here. It's very small. It's like the size of a credit card, right? It's like this big. I believe actually that let me just put this back up here. I believe actually that this is to scale. So it's like that big. But might actually that picture might be a little bigger. I wonder, maybe that one's to scale. Maybe that's it. Now I'm struggling because I haven't seen it for a while. So anyways, but in the time, this fragment was discovered in the 1930s and quickly published. There was a rush on the publication because scholars who were working on this little fragment also recognized that it's potentially very, very old and very significant for their purposes. So there was a rush on the publication, and since that time, the common thought is that this is probably a mid 2nd century manuscript. You heard D. Moody Smith talk about how it was dated by the original scholar, Robertson, to the 2nd quarter of the 2nd century. So that's 125 to 150. Certainly not by any stretch of the imagination a 1st century manuscript like the Puppet has suggested. But I would also suggest that when it comes to these things, when it comes to paleography, and we'll go through a little bit of this article from Brett Nongbury, and I'll point out to you where the direction of this conversation has been going in the last 20 years with regards to this particular fragment, with this particular manuscript of the Gospel of John. But even in the way this tends to work as a paleographer, when I'm dealing with a manuscript and I'm analyzing the handwriting, I'm setting a range. And I like to think about this. I know that there's a bunch of people in my chat who are much more scientific literate, not scientific illiterate, scientific literate. You caught that,
I think
right?
that should be an adverb. Scientifically literate.
Scientifically literate. Yes, that's true. That is good. Thank you. Scientifically literate. A bunch of you are. So maybe you can understand this better when it comes to things like carbon-14 dating. There's a range, right? And when we set a range, the way this tends to work is paleographic dates, the ranges are set by individual scholars, and a lot of that unfortunately has to do with intuition, with impressions. Paleography is a frustrating field because while I continue to believe in it as a robust way of analyzing manuscripts and of a perfectly useful non-destructive method for dating texts, it's as much an art as it is a science, even still.
I mean,
and
I
as
do paleography pretty constantly in my genealogy work. I can tell you what time period a certain priest was trained to do handwriting in based on like the way the letters look, because they all look completely unique century to century.
But it's not
it'll give you a pretty good range, but it's not going to give you the exact year.
And what I mean by that when I say that too, like as somebody who's a trained paleographer and has done paleographer for a couple of decades, Hebrew paleography, there are features in scripts that I know I tend to set my focus on a little more acutely than some of my colleagues, right? We each sort of have, we all kind of observe the same principles, but then within that, there's ways in which we do our work that might be a little bit different from one another. Is kind of what I'm getting at here. So it's not precise, and as a result, we'll set ranges on the dates. So you heard that for this one, Robertson dated P52 to the second quarter of the 2nd century. So that's from 125 to 150 CE. Usually when I date manuscripts, I'm not that confident in the narrow bars. I usually I feel better about using 100-year ranges to say, this is probably 2nd century, or late 2nd, early 3rd. I like those sorts of ranges, because I think there's a lot of room for scripts, especially to shift, and they don't all shift at once. It takes time, right, for the styles to change. So are you catching something at the tail end of an era, or the very beginning of a new era, or are you right in the middle of it? These are the sorts of things. So much like paleographic dates, but much like carbon-14 dates, you get a range, and a lot of people will just kind of go straight to the middle, right to the midpoint of that range, and say it's probably here. This is like, if you're going to set a precise date on something as opposed to a range, the sensible thing to do usually is to just go straight to the midpoint. Take the midpoint. That's the date of this thing. Doesn't always work, right? We saw that recently with new carbon-14 dates assigned to some of the Dead Sea Scrolls. There was a sensation in the spring about new dates for the oldest manuscript of the Book of Daniel that was discovered at Qumran, and the carbon-14 dates have suggested that the range is between 220 and 160 BC. And a lot of people looked at that and said, wow, that means that this manuscript of the Book of Daniel potentially could date to 180 BCE. It doesn't really mean that, right? And we know that because, there's stuff that happened in the 160s that Daniel talks about. So it's still within range. It just happens to be on the far end. It's not a perfect thing, right? Paleography is like that. So we're dealing with these ranges, but oftentimes what you find when it comes to this particular manuscript, and it's frustrating as hell, is more and more scholars are pushing to the bottom end of this range and saying it dates to 125. Does it really? And then you have puppets who just go out and say it dates to the 1st century. So I don't know.
The thing is about dating written materials is you can date around the writing, but that's only going to tell you when the medium was made. That's not going to tell you when the writing occurred on it.
True.
Which
that's
when you start going, okay, this is destructive, but you can take a sampling of like the ink, perhaps, and that could give you a range or a good idea of when the ink was made, which is a pretty decent yardstick to measure when this might have been written, because people would make ink pretty close to when they would be writing stuff down. But again, you're still not going to get an exact year. You can just narrow that down. So if you have a teeny tiny little scrap of something with letters that are faded, you're not going to want to destroy it any more than it's already degraded. So it's making this a lot more complicated.
It is. Like something like this, something the size of this, nobody's carbon dating this. They're just not. It's too small. Not that it's not. I mean, they can take
Star
really
Trek
tiny samples now and get
scanning materials.
Yeah, right.
Tricorders.
Yeah. But on a fragment this size, this is the only fragment we have from this particular manuscript. The University of Manchester is not going to, just provide for someone to destroy a chunk of it to arrive at a date. That's just not what's happening. One of the things that Brent talks about in this article that's really important is using manuscripts that have dated manuscripts. We have a whole bunch of documentary texts that have dates on them as ways of establishing our markers, right, for determining the period. So he talks a little bit here about the actual discovery and the publication history of the fragment. I'm right here in this paragraph here. I'll start here at the top of page 30. In 1935, this fragment was rushed into publication before the rest of the third volume of the catalog. This is the Oxyrhynchus collection, I believe. No. Sorry, this is the Manchester collection. So it appeared on its own, 35-page volume, an unpublished fragment of the fourth gospel in the John Rylands Library. The reason for the hurry was excitement concerning Roberts's dating of the fragment. On the whole, says Roberts, we may accept with some confidence the first half of the 2nd century as the period in which P. Rylands Greek 457 was most probably written. First, you see that? First half of the 2nd century. So half of a century is like 50 years. So it's like 100 to 150 CE. Roberts's own speculation about the date of John's gospel in light of his dating of the papyrus was relatively cautious. But all we can safely say is that this fragment tends to support those critics who favor an early date, late 1st century to early 2nd century, for the composition of the gospel, rather than those who would still regard it as a work of the middle decades of the 2nd century. Nongbury continues, subsequent scholars have been bolder. They have tended to assign P52 a date closer and closer to the early end of Roberts's tentative range, and without providing new evidence. They have, moreover, done so in spite of the encouragement of caution from other papyrological experts. In 1977, Eric Turner had the following to say about Roberts' dating of P52. I have no evidence to invalidate the first editor's dating to the first half of the 2nd century, but I should echo his warning about the need for caution. He goes on to cite Papyrus Amherst 2.78, a petition of 184 CE, which is as good a parallel to P52 as any of those adduced by Roberts. What is needed then is a re-examination of all Roberts's evidence, and particularly an update of comparanda, preferably documentary papyri with dates, in order to question New Testament scholars' early and overly specific dating of P52, typified by the recent work of Comfort and Barrett. For a second, I thought that was Comfort and Barnett. Ray Comfort and Tim Barnett. No, not those guys.
Not Tim Barnett.
No.
Night. Pretty sure Tim would never voluntarily share a room with Ray Comfort.
That's fair. That's true. Right. That's fairly true. In the latest edition of their collection of early manuscripts of New Testament, they bring only one new papyrus into the discussion of dating P52, Papyrus Oxyrhynchus 31.2533, a fragment of New Comedy of Unknown Authorship published in 1966 and dated paleographically by its editors to the 2nd century. Just the 2nd century. See, that's how I do things.
Okay.
2nd century. With only this sliver of evidence in hand, Comfort and Barrett assert a date closer to AD 100, plus or minus a few years for P52. Why? Why did they do that? So Nongbre goes through all of the samples that Roberts used for dating P52, and then introduces a number of his own. And I'll just skip ahead here to some of the points that he makes with regards to the observations. Right here in this final paragraph before some new comparenda. I agree with some of the similarities that Roberts points out in these papyri. The difficulty is that the features he isolates in papyri from the late 1st to mid 2nd centuries persist into the late 2nd and the 3rd centuries. We can clearly see these examples in Papyrus Amherst 2.78 and in more recently published papyri. And so now, and so you heard that, right? The problem here, and a lot of this has to do with the fact that there's just not a lot of material for P52. Understandably, when you have smaller fragments, they're harder to date because you have fewer samples of individual letters. It's a smaller set of data from which to draw your conclusions. Caution is warranted. So Brent has introduced a bunch of new comparenda that has since come to light since the time of Roberts' work back in the 1930s to get a stronger sense, a more refined sense of the dating for P52. And I'm just going to skip over to his conclusions here instead of going over the technical bits that he talks about. What emerges from this survey is nothing surprising to papyrologists, perhaps some New Testament scholars, but not to papyrologists. Paleography is not the most effective method for dating texts, particularly those written in a literary hand. Roberts himself noted this point in his edition of P52. The real problem is thus in the way scholars of the New Testament have used and abused papyrological evidence. I have not radically revised Roberts's work. I have not provided any 3rd century documentary papyri that are absolute dead ringers for the handwriting of P52. And even if I had done so, that would not force us to date P52 at some exact point in the 3rd century. Paleographic evidence does not work that way. What I have done is to show that any serious consideration of the window of possible dates for P52 must include dates in the later 2nd and early 3rd century. Thus, and if you're listening and not watching, this part is italicized, P52 cannot be used as evidence to silence other debates about the existence or non-existence of the Gospel of John in the first half of the 2nd century. Sorry, I have to cough. Did you guys catch that?
No, you effectively muted.
No, not the cough. the statement
Oh, yes.
cannot be used as evidence to silence other debates about the existence or non-existence of the Gospel of John in the first half of the 2nd century. Only a papyrus containing an explicit date or one found in a clear archaeological stratigraphic context could do the work scholars want P52 to do. As it stands now, the papyrological evidence should take a second place to other forms of evidence in addressing debates about the dating of the 4th gospel. But, and that's the concluding point that Nongbri makes. But I think, and I bring this up because I think it's really important. First of all, P52 is absolutely not a 1st century manuscript. We don't have any of those for any part of the New Testament. Just none. None at all. Secondly, P52 is possibly, but probably not a manuscript that was written even in the first half of the 2nd century CE. Possibly, but is that the most likely situation here? Based on a proper assessment of all the data, we can look at a fragment like P52 and say, probably our earliest Christian manuscript, still earliest Christian, earliest New Testament manuscript, still second half of the 2nd century, maybe as late as the early 3rd century. That's the best we can do. That is the best we can do with something like that. So pulling P52 out of your pocket, apologists, and waving it in the faces of your critics as a way to suggest something about the antiquity of the Gospel of John, or even worse, about the reliability of the New Testament, just stop doing that. Just stop it.
They're not gonna.
I
It's
know,
like the elephant in the room with that paper that you were reading from is that there are theological motivations to date this earlier. That's the elephant in the room. I kind of wish that had been directly named, but again, this is inside baseball, so people probably already know what that elephant in the room is. And even if you found a manuscript that was from the 1st century within the first 70 to 100 years of, these events that were purported to have happened, that does not demonstrate that the events happened the way that was written down. All that tells you is that these stories and these reports and whatever were just in circulation at the time. That does not demonstrate that it happened that way.
That's all it does. It's not doing the heavy lifting that you think it is. It just is not. And you're right. I mean, it's wishful thinking on my part, but I'm going to continue beating this drum because I just think it's really important for people, just like people out there listening, watching. When you hear someone coming along and making big claims about dates of the Gospels or the fidelity of the manuscript evidence insofar as the New Testament is concerned, just remember this. This is the best we've got. This is just one tiny manuscript fragment. This is the best that we've got, and it's much worse than these people are suggesting the situation is to you. Sorry, I didn't see this one.
It's crazy. Not to mention P52 has differences from our received text, even on that tiny ass fragment.
It's a tiny little fragment, right? Tiny little fragment, and yes, it contains.
So yeah,
it contains.
That makes me chuckle quite a bit. It's like, oh, you found a manuscript, and it's, grab my little Metro bus pass. It's about this big, and even on this, there's differences from a bunch of the other copies of that. So, what are you doing? I always laugh when there's textual differences between manuscripts. Then people are like, look at this thing we found, and it's even older. And then it's not the same as the one you're used to reading. I'm like, okay, how are you going to work this out?
So,
you want it to be like, oh, it's older, therefore it's more correct. And then you have to adjust all the other readings? Or do you want to be like, oh, well, it's older, but it's wrong somehow? It's like, all right, well, I'll have fun scaling that hill.
Yeah. Another one that I like to talk about quite a bit. I'm just going to put this, show you a picture of this one as well. Open image in a new tab. There we go. Yeah, that's a good picture. Okay, and I'm going to drop this and share this one, that one there. Okay. I have mentioned, I like to talk about this one too quite a bit when it comes to Christian manuscripts, and I'll make it a little bigger. Oh, that's too big. Let's see, can we do there? That guy.
Ooh.
Y'all see that one? So that is P-Oxy 5775. P-Oxy 5775. It was published like 2 years ago. It's pretty recent. And this one is also super fucking old. Meaning that it probably dates to, that transition period between the 2nd century and the second century and the 3rd century CE. So in the same sort of ballpark with the Rylands fragment with P52. Maybe not quite as old as P52, but close in age. The thing that I like about this manuscript is it is arguably one of the earliest Christian manuscripts in existence. And this one is not text from any gospel that we know. No.
Ooh.
It's a little bit of Matthew. It's a little bit of Luke. It's a little bit of the Gospel of Thomas. All kind of.
Oh.
Yeah. I've mentioned this before on this channel, but last year when San Diego was when SBL was in San Diego, I had lunch with Mike Holmes, who was the publisher of this manuscript, and I asked him what it was, and he said to me, he goes, "It's a proto-gospel." A proto-gospel. So this is an early form of a gospel. This is all we have of it. And it's something like this that was in circulation probably around the same time as, the canonical gospels and non-canonical gospels. But I think it's just, isn't it just ironic? That this particular manuscript might be, one of the oldest.
And it reads to us
Christian,
like a hodgepodge.
Yep. So that's fun, right? That's a fun fragment. But we will get out of here early today, but we'll watch a little bit more.
Okay. I was gonna say there are some super chats and things too.
Oh yeah, let's do those now.
Yeah. Ted is mad for 5. I want to point out, if you're arguing with a puppet, you've already lost. If not the argument, part of your soul.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Very good.
Winner the number says, I'd never date P52. The age gap is way too large.
Wow. Ageist much?
Dead Sea Scrolls fragments that include Paleo-Hebrew script for the Tetragrammaton, does that make them the oldest?
Oh, absolutely not. And here is a common misconception about the so-called Paleo-Hebrew script for the Tetragram. We actually have full manuscripts written in Paleo-Hebrew as well in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Not many, but there are a few. So I've mentioned this before too, because I only have 6 or 7 talking points. I just repeat them over and over again, right? But one of the things you will have heard me say before from time to time is that the Paleo Hebrew that we have in the Dead Sea Scrolls, the full manuscripts that were written in this script, the manuscripts where the Tetragrammaton employs the old Hebrew script, the script that's used is pretty late. It's like 2nd century. We know this because what was happening at the time of the mid to late 2nd century and into the 1st century BC was that the Hasmonean rulers, the Hasmoneans managed to establish a quasi-independent Judean kingdom for 100 years. For the first time since the end of the kingdom of Judah in 586 BCE, the Hasmoneans managed to establish a semi-independent Jewish state. The reason they were able to do this, by the way, was because at this time, the Seleucids and everybody else started to really kind of freak out about Roman expansion. So everybody was preoccupied with what the Romans were doing, that they just didn't have enough time to care so much about what was happening in Palestine at the time, right? So, and history's like that. Circumstances make things happen. So for this period of time, there was an independent Judean kingdom. The Hasmoneans instituted a program of nationalization of religious ritual, of religious text, of religious ideology. And part of that was a revival of the ancient Hebrew text, because at this point, for probably 200 years at least, they were writing using the Aramaic script. They were writing Hebrew using the Aramaic script. They inherited that from the Persians predominantly, as early as like the 400s, the 500s BCE. So up until the 2nd century BCE, they were using the Aramaic script to write Hebrew, and the Hasmoneans said, no, because we're Jewish, because we have this heritage that stretches back before the Persian kingdom into the period prior to the Babylonian exile. We're going to resurrect this ancient script, and this is going to now be our national script. So they basically reinvented it, and it's more like a late bastardization of this ancient script. It's actually like, if you know what you're looking at, it's pretty easy actually to tell the features of this 2nd century bastardized, revitalized script that make it very distinct from, the old Hebrew. So all that to say, when it comes to things like the Tetragrammaton and the Dead Sea Scrolls or other manuscripts that were written in Paleo Hebrew, no, it doesn't mean that they're especially old. It's they're a little easier to date actually, because you can more properly fix the time period with this script. Great question, by the way.
All right, Stephen for 5. If you can't trust a puppet, what can you trust?
I don't know. There's people that I trust. I do. Some. Not
None
all.
of them are puppets.
None of them are puppets, though. No.
Okay. Evidence of existence is not evidence of veracity. Gospel of John in its final form is only evident into the 4th century.
Right. No, it's a good point. Thank you.
No, Hebrew was continually being spoken and words were being added
The
and borrowed
language
in
was
and things like
never
it was
dead.
never like
Nope.
and that's the thing is that people get confused with dead versus extinct. Those are not the same
Yeah.
thing. Extinct is no more living speakers of a language. Dead can mean that people aren't speaking it as their primary first language.
Mhm.
It could also mean that there's not any like new words being imported or developed into that language. So there is never a time that Hebrew's not been spoken and or written among Jews that since it developed out of like the Canaanite landscape.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this idea that like, oh my gosh, it went away, we just don't know what it said and nobody knew it, and then all of a sudden we brought it back, like that's not that's not even
No.
close to what happened. Like people will say all the time that Latin's a dead language. There are people today who are clergy members that conversationally speak Latin.
Oh my God! Right?
It's
like
extremely nerdy.
Yes. And I
they write.
believe it's still they're still
Yeah,
they're
you can
still
they still
conversing
write
and
in
writing
Latin.
in Latin at the Vatican,
Yeah.
right? Like it's
and
it's totally
Luke
a thing.
Ranieri, who has a channel Polymathy, who's really great. He teaches Latin. He speaks Latin. He uses the classical pronunciation rather than ecclesiastical. But he goes to the Vatican and talks to
Chats with
several clergy members
Yeah.
in
right.
Latin, just having conversations. And then at the end of the video, there's a clip of him singing "Fly Me to the Moon" in Latin.
Oh, cool.
It is very cool. It's very nerdy. But yeah, that's just one of
I'm
those
here
things.
for it.
Like, yeah, it's very, very cool. He also does a presentation in front of a bunch of old Latin scholars, and he's dressed in like a Roman centurion uniform, and he does the entire presentation in Latin, and he's making
brilliant.
jokes that only make sense in Latin. It's funny that you can hear them cracking up at his jokes, and it's just the epitome of nerd love.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm here for all that. So, all right. Well, we'll watch a little bit more of this, and I'm gonna we'll get out of here at do you see how my iPad says it's like 9 in the morning? It's weird, eh?
What the heck?
I know. But yeah, we'll get out of here at 4 at the top of the hour. Let's say that. So, all right. The manuscript date is wrong. The conversation surrounding the manuscript is wrong. Everything the puppet is doing right now is wrong. Pretty sure I got the sound turned back on, but let me know if you can't hear it.
Of this gospel? So tell me again how they waited centuries before writing it?
Serafina, what about the 4 Gospels? Yes, the 4 Gospels too.
Well, here comes her opinion as opposed to facts.
Those are not eyewitness accounts.
Yes, they are. They're very format.
No, they're not. They're literally not.
Their very format is eyewitness account, Vish. Apparently, there's an eyewitness account format. Did you know this?
Really? And that's written in the third person.
The genre of eyewitness of Greek eyewitness account. I guess.
Okay.
This is
what other texts are written in that genre?
The eyewitness accounts. I don't fucking
cricket
know.
sounds.
Right?
It's God. That's another thing is like earlier in the video when he lists all these, thinkers that were saying, oh, the gospel's written here, and then he goes, and then also the archaeology, and puts no sources, no mentions.
None.
Yes. What's funny is this is actually how the Talmud was passed down. And we still today will learn by rote, like the class that I just did, learn the first two folios of Berachot. and we're, I'm not great at memorization. I never really have been, but there are people in the class that could just recite entire strings and blocks of text from memory.
wild,
and that's
right?
the way it was passed down. But it's like, you don't have the internet to take your, attention away from stuff. So it's a little bit easier to get that into your brain. So,
Yeah. Word for
good
word.
stuff.
Word for word for word, word for word, word for word.
Yeah, someone says I've memorized Mishnah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's doable.
There's by the way, I read a book when I was in grad school about the phenomenal memory capabilities of Thomas Aquinas, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard
the legends
apologists
of
try to go,
Thomas Aquinas.
Jewish kids memorized the entire Torah by the age of 12, and they just had these incredible memory, like as if it's a superpower or something. Just they have no clue about how
they also want to stretch
neurological
this.
development works, but
yeah. But the other thing, the other component to this as well is they want to. Usually, the way this works is they want to stretch, rabbinic education.
Yeah,
protect it backwards, right into earlier periods, to make it more plausible. Fidelity, the veracity of what was actually written down. But I mean, one of the things
if they had superpowered memories, then that just means that, it was common in the time of the gospel writers to just memorize stuff really well. So it doesn't matter that it was written down like 100 years later.
I guess not.
That's part of where they go with that.
But yeah, they're formatted as eyewitness accounts, apparently.
You just disagree that they're genuine, which you're allowed to disagree, but your whole argument is completely wrong, even if you were correct.
Everyone who was supposed...
What do you mean by that?
It's really cute that the puppet thinks that she's wrong, but he just made up an entire genre called eyewitness format, and then he gave no examples of it. So, he's entitled to do that.
And then he also, no.
Does that work better when I'm overly tone policing and patronizing about it?
I'm gonna press play.
Walking with Jesus was illiterate. They couldn't write anything down even if they wanted to.
Matthew, also known as Levi, was a tax collector. You couldn't be a tax collector and be illiterate. Besides which, that's also why they wrote things down afterward, because they were able to pay a scribe to do it, or a scribe became a Christian and wrote it down for them, like Mark did for Peter, or Luke did as he interviewed others, like he says he did.
Between 90 and...
Is that what Luke said? Did Luke say that he interviewed others? I want to look that up because I'm fairly sure
he talks about how it's the report of multiple people that he's kind of compiled.
Can we?
But again, do they think that illiterate means that they just can't communicate at all? Because obviously it doesn't mean that you can't communicate vocally. They can do that, obviously. But there are levels of literacy. There's not just can write, can't write.
Yep. So just reading the prologue of Luke's Gospel, since many have undertaken to, this is the NRSV, by the way, since many have undertaken to set down an orderly account of the events that have been fulfilled among us, just as they were handed down to us by those from the beginning, were eyewitnesses and servants of the word, I too decided, after investigating everything carefully from the very first, to write an orderly account for you, most excellent Theophilus, so that you may know the truth concerning the things about which you have been instructed.
Weird. That doesn't sound like eyewitness testimony. It sounds like he heard it from people that were allegedly eyewitnesses.
He doesn't really talk about conducting interviews there, does he? I don't think. But this is the one I really like here, and I think we've talked about this before, but the Matthew was a tax collector, and you couldn't
You had
be
to be
a
literate.
tax collector unless you were literate.
I need a source for that.
You know what this is? This is because we all know like accountants, right? And we all have to deal sometimes with people who work at like the Canada Revenue Agency or the IRS. That they're accountants, the tax collectors. We have to deal with those people sometimes, and usually they're educated. They have to know shit to do their job. So someone like the puppet here goes, the tax collector. So I mean, the obviously the Roman tax collectors had to, because the modern tax collectors have to know the tax code. The old Roman tax collectors had to know the tax code. Do you know what the tax code was in the Roman tax code, Vish? It was
beat it out of them.
Yeah, it was give me my money.
Mm-hmm.
However you happen to come across that money, it's fine. Just make sure that Rome's getting
make sure we get it.
Share. Just make sure we get it. So, if
and this is
was
again
a tax collector,
Luke mentioning how he used other written sources again, that means it's not eyewitness.
What written sources?
The eyewitness, and that's what old bro that we banned earlier was say like Luke was written by Luke. Cool, even if he wrote it, he wasn't an eyewitness. He literally tells you in the prologue that he's assembling accounts that were passed on by other people.
Like
that's not eyewitness. What the heck?
We know that Luke was using previously written sources because Matthew's in there, or sorry, well, possibly Matthew, Mark. But also definitely Mark is in there, right? Like word for word. I'm just gonna I'm gonna beat the wheel
word for word.
Wow. You know, in many places it's word for word. In the Gospel of Luke, just repeating verbatim what's in Mark. So we know he's using sources, but he doesn't actually talk about like reading anything or using actual written sources either. He says, I'll read it again. Many have undertaken to set down an orderly account of events that have been fulfilled among us, just as they were handed down to us by those who from the beginning were eyewitnesses and servants of the word. So he's saying that there are other accounts out there that have been written down. He says that they were they've set down an orderly account. But he then goes
up. They attempted to. They endeavored to.
Of his own work, he says, I too decided after investigating everything carefully from the very first. He doesn't say what that means or what that investigation entailed to write an orderly account for you. So maybe
again, if you were an eyewitness, you don't have to investigate. You were there.
Yeah.
But
again,
I think even if you want to say Luke wrote Luke, cool, don't care. He still wasn't an eyewitness.
It's true. He wasn't. The point I want to make here, though, is that even the way that he structured and written his prologue, to my ear, almost sounds like he's trying to distance himself from other written sources.
The way that sounds to me is he's like, hey, other people have like written stuff down about this and they've, got their whole thing. I think I could do a better job.
Yes. Yes.
Which is like, he's like, hey, Theo, let me put this together for you. I did some legwork here.
This is how it happens.
Here's my version of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
If it wasn't insufficient in some way, he wouldn't have written it down in the first place. So
Roman, yeah. So Roman tax collectors were pugilists. They were not mathematicians and scribes and poets. And Luke was not, interviewing eyewitnesses. It's just that's not what that is. Oh no.
Man, I'm done with the puppet. Can we just
You're what?
get out of here? I'm so done with this puppet, for real. Can we just
You're telling me
not listen to the puppet anymore?
I'm getting these messages from Vish that say don't bring the puppet back. And maybe just dump the puppet and go home. Is that what we're saying?
The puppet is insufferable.
It really is. See, Prixie agrees with you.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are tired of this freaking puppet.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Archival Blob.
God. Jeez.
So, that deserves one of these, that's for sure.
Are there female rabbis?
We need to stop.
But sometimes Michael gets some things right, Vish. Sometimes he gets some things right.
And Kip Davis rules.
Your clips are echoing, by the way.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah, because you're sharing your system sound, so it's playing.
Oh yeah, that's there we go. Yeah.
Twice.
Well, let's drop the puppet because but I can play that one
and Kip
again.
Davis rules.
Did it still echo?
I think we're good. No, I think we're all right.
Okay. Cool. All right. So yeah. It's early. That's nice. In
2 more super chats, and that's all I see. It gets the treats for Dagon, or else it gets the puppet again. Also, hello, puppet. This is what you get for submitting me to off-brand Pinocchio.
So by the way, okay, go ahead. Do Tads, and then I'll tell my Dagon story.
You have to be literate to collect the fig on some guy's gambling debt. I know this because of famous real life character Chili Palmer. Those are
I don't
words
understand that one.
in an order.
So that yeah.
To look like
thank you, Tad. I appreciate that. So hey buddy. Look, he is out. Like just full on out. Like he is not. I wonder if I throw a treat at him, will he even wake up? oh, he did wake up. Now, here's the thing. I probably do have to throw a treat at him. So here you go, buddy. Here you go. And the reason for that is because on Wednesday night, I have another dog, a very old dog. She's like a 13-year-old lab. And when I toilet her instead, because we have a lot of stairs into the backyard, and she doesn't like doing those, so I just take her out front. And we have like a driveway, but I usually take her right across the street to like a grassy area to snoop around and to use the bathroom and stuff. So on Wednesday night, I was taking the garbage out, and I took her out to toilet her, and my wife had suggested to me, she said, when you do that, you should just take Dagon out with you and throw the ball for him out there while my other dog, Skaha, is peeing. And I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. So, but because I've never done this before, I didn't know what I was doing. So I took Dagon out with Skaha and I was tossing the ball for him. We live on a cul-de-sac and it's quiet. And it was like 11. So I'm tossing it up the road for him. And because he's like a maniac, he'd go running after the ball. And then when he would miss the ball or it would bounce another way, he'd like, stop and like slide across the asphalt. He did this several times. And I did this for like 5 minutes. And as I was coming back inside, he was limping a little bit. So that was Wednesday night. And I woke up yesterday and he was full on like hobbling and was like
Aw.
favoring a leg. Yeah. So, but nothing was swollen, right? So I was pretty sure nothing's sprained, nothing's broken, but he was pretty sore. So he spent the day in bed yesterday, and he does feel quite a bit better today, but I'm still keeping an eye on him and keeping him off his feet. And I might try icing some of the joints, but no, he didn't actually. So that's something. Yeah, I checked. His pads are fine. He didn't grind his toes,
Okay.
so those are okay. That can happen, and it's sad. But
Since Masoretic tech supremacy is outrolling, I was wondering if an interesting Sofer minded is to write Torah scroll that incorporates other manuscripts beside the Masoretic, BHS or Dead Sea Scrolls.
BHS is empty.
Yeah, and I'm like, first of all, logistically, that would be kind of a nightmare because Torah scrolls are insanely expensive.
Mhm.
And most of them take well over a year to write. And that's
That's
if
why
the
they're
Sofer
expensive.
or Soferet is not currently working on Mezuzot or the little texts that go inside to fill in or whatever. But also you have to decide like which texts are you prioritizing and why? What's your metric and who's going to use this particular scroll? Because the reason you have a Torah scroll so people can chant out of it when it's read, it's not used for study purposes. It's pretty much exclusively used for like liturgical trope. So there's no pointing system or associated trope with like alternate manuscripts like the Dead Sea Scrolls, as far as we can tell. So I think that would cause like a logistical nightmare. Even if you were to like, hey, let's incorporate the Dead Sea Scrolls version of the Asheray, which I think would be really neat. There's not associated traditions with that, so you would run into a lot of logistical headaches trying to pull that off. I think it would be neat. I just don't know if it's economically or practically feasible to pull off. I prefer composing like printed volumes because it's easier to use for study and casual reading purposes. But who knows?
Indeed.
I mean, shit, we have the Samaritan Pentateuch, and that's definitely not the same as the Masoretic, and you can use that all day.
Sure isn't. Yeah, you can. That's very true. So, all right. Well, so it's a busy weekend. I'll be on Top Hats Off in an hour, playing Star Trek Endurance. So come and check that out. Yeah, I can eat something now actually, which is good.
Yeah.
So yeah, so come and check that out. Tomorrow, what was that?
There's fire engines.
Oh, okay. Oh dear. Well, I hope everyone's okay. So tomorrow, Vish and I are going to be on Dapper's main channel at 11 o'clock Pacific. Oh yeah, I hear that. So yeah, so we're on Dapper's main channel at 11 o'clock Pacific tomorrow, which is 2 o'clock Eastern, I think. And then at 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern, I will be on Vandalia's channel. And then at 7 o'clock Pacific, 10 o'clock Eastern, Budget Scripture Saturday is...
Whoop, whoop.
Yes.
Whoop, whoop.
I'm very excited. So Nitty will be here. The Weasels will probably be here because that's more of an infestation problem. It's hard to get rid of the weasels once they infest. So the weasels with all of their astrophysics nonsense will be here tomorrow night. It'll be a good time. Please come and check it out. I will be teaching Hebrew, a new course starting on Tuesday. This Tuesday, there is still slots available. And if you're interested in learning Hebrew, there are links in the description. You can go sign up here. And we start on Tuesday. It runs for 10 weeks. It's like an hour and a half from 5 until 6:30 Pacific.
And which text are you using to...
we are using... I wish I had the copy here. You know what? I could we've got time. I will just pull that up. We are using Joshua Bowen's Learn to Read Biblical Hebrew. Joshua Bowen.
Yeah.
So
it is a direct result of Josh starting up Hebrew classes that this text came into being, because a lot of it was spurred on by feedback in his classes of like, hey, learning from a grammar kind of sucks ass. Can you make this less difficult?
Less grammary? There it is.
Yes, less grammary.
It's a very good book. It looks sexy as fuck. But
it's very accessible, at least.
It is very accessible. I used it with my my first course. Yes, Prixie, you should read all the chapters before class time. Not all of them before. Just chapter 1. Yes, read chapter 1 before you come to class on Tuesday. Very excited to see you there and others. But come and join us. It's fun. It's fun learning. And this will open this will be a game changer in terms of how you read the text. So but it's this is a very good book. We used it, we beta tested it in my first cohort that I just finished up here at the beginning of December. There's guys in the chat here still. I think they can tell you about how user-friendly the book is. I hope it has an intelligible breakdown of vowel changes and shortening and that stuff. With it does at the very beginning. Josh does a really good job of doing that stuff, I think, and he covers it. And honestly, so that's all stuff that gets covered in chapter 2, and then it's the sort of thing that he continues to come back to in every single chapter, just repeating the information, showing the places where, now that we know the basic ideas of how and why there are vowel changes in the words, that here's the rules as it applies to this particular verb in the PL. Here's the rules when it applies to this particular verb when these letters are weak, and so on and so forth. So it does a very, very good job of that.
Blocks or excerpts of the text, the biblical text, helps a lot, because a lot of these you're probably familiar with, having read them in translation, but when you do it yourself, it's a lot easier to grasp and retain and understand and parse, and you kind of see. For me, it was just more evidence to confirm that translation is an art as much as it is a skill. So learning at least intermediate, I guess, Hebrew for me, but learning this was a very, very helpful on that front.
Yeah, I would say
Yeah,
this teaching grammar does a very good. I think it does a really nice job of it. And this is something. So when I learned Hebrew, the man who taught me introduction to Hebrew also had written uh his own teaching grammar, and like that's how I learned it too. There was a lot of that in the early going with the vowel reductions and the changes. That was way better than any of the I agree with you, like than any of the resources that I tried to use when I started teaching it after the fact. And he never published his teaching grammar either. So and I don't have it anymore. But yeah, Josh just does a very good job. Um, I flagged this one just because I think it's funny. How many ancient languages can one learn at the same time? I don't know the answer to this question, but the reason I think this is funny is because I bet if this is a question you asked a certain now disgraced Egyptologist, he would give you an absurd number of ancient languages that he learned simultaneously
Okay.
in his studies. So yes, he probably knows. So all right, well, I guess that'll do it for us. Trying to think, is there anything else? I don't think so. Oh, I did want to say one more thing. I posted a brand new video on my Patreon yesterday. I am very happy with it. It stars Dr. Joshua Bowen as well as friend of the show, Maya Atkinson, and it's all about biblical slavery. It's part 1 of 2. Look for part 2 next month. If you want early access, you can get it on my Patreon now. Also, channel members can get early access, and it will be coming. I will be releasing it to the general public on YouTube probably next week for sure.
Sweet.
But it's yeah, I really like it. I think it's that's true. Maya has never been on my show. But mostly because this is a Bible show, but it's
Yeah, well.
yeah.
Anyway.
But anyway, still a friend of the show, though. You can be a friend without actually being on the show. Things work a little differently here than they do on your show. But yeah, but maybe she's looking for an invitation. So yeah, you can come on my show.
All right, cool.
We'll figure that out. All right.
Happy weekend, everybody.
Yeah. Y'all have a very good weekend. I'm going to look for an outro. And
I can say, Ahav Tika, I love you.
Hatikva, everybody.
From the bottom of my heart. Hatikva, everyone. This one. Oh, no, we'll do that one. No, wait. Where are my outros? I lost them, Vish. I can't find them. God damn it. This is not as smooth as I was hoping it would be.